welcome to Talk Talk Punch. Thank you so much to both our audio podcast and our YouTube viewers for joining us. I am Brody, joined by Tudong Dylan.
Hey.
And the ebony maw of this Black Order, Charlie Hickman.
I do not understand the reference, but I will take it as a compliment because I choose to not believe that you are insulting me so bad.
No, Ebony Maw, the Black Order was Thanos's, the children of Thanos, and Ebony Maw was like the one that from.
He was pretty cool,
actually.
Charlie,
I got it. I work really hard on these nicknames, Charlie.
I'm sorry.
Ebony Maw was the one that could do telekinesis, and he fought Doctor Strange in the street and Iron Man in the street.
Doctor Strange, Iron Man. Now you're just making up names.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you haven't already, we'd love it if you subscribe so that way you can come back here every Wednesday to hang out with us and see what we're talking about. Kind of like this week's topic, we have a conversation. We're just going to talk. We're talking this. I mean, we always just talk, but we're having a conversation. It's a loose, structured episode because sometimes we have stuff that we're just like, oh, you know what? This would be interesting just to talk about. We talk about a lot of this stuff when we're not recording. And we say, boy, we should probably be recording this because this could actually be an interesting episode. And so Charlie came up with this idea that he just wanted to talk about kind of how we're consuming media right now. Charlie, tell us about this a little bit.
Thank you, bro. Well, look, I think it's an interesting conversation, and I think there's really two parts to it that are fascinating. We can kind of talk about what has gotten us to the place that we are, and then kind of our reaction to that. What do we do moving forward? And so I thought it'd be more fun to focus on the second part here. It's more actionable. It's kind of more conversational. But just a quick recap of what we're even talking about here. Just the streaming services are cutting shows, right? So like if you wanted to watch the new Willow show, haven't gotten around to it, sorry, gone. Even like flagship shows like Westworld, gone off of streaming services. So stuff's getting cut, and we went through a while back where the revelation of like the Netflix 2-year system where they were kind of like putting a lot of pay structure incentives after the second year. So really only smash hits were getting renewed past that second season. There's a lot of this like stuff that kind of feeds into where we are now. But I think when we thought of streaming in the beginning, it was kind of like everything that you could ever want will be at your fingertips in a moment's notice, without any of the hassle of having to store things in your home. Then we realized quickly that wasn't really the case. But at least the stuff that's made by HBO will always be available on HBO. And now we're kind of getting realized that's not really the case. Even new stuff that's just a year or two old can be gone just like that. So that brings us kind of the second part of the conversation. And I think what we're kind of focused our energy tonight is, what do we do? Are we buying DVDs again? Are we kind of, are we going, you could get in 4K discs? Are we buying everything on Amazon or iTunes that we can get our hands on? It's expensive proposition, and we'll kind of break into the finances. But all of this kind of came about when I stumbled on like a 2013 article just talking about silent films and about how 75% of the silent era films are just gone. And there were some studio fires and things like that wiped out quite a bit actually in the 1930s, but also there was negligence and just lack of care for film over the years. And so from like that 1912 to like 1929 era of silent film, there was about 10,900 movies produced. We just have about 2,700 left, which is kind of wild to think about. Just all that is gone, and how in some ways like there's shows that never even make it to DVD, movies that don't really kind of come out, stuff that where some seasons are available, some seasons are not. So it's just an interesting landscape, and I thought that might be a good framework for us to kind of start a dialogue. So, what do you think, guys? Bro, what are your initial thoughts on all that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a couple years ago I would have thought, oh yeah, it's just there's no point in buying discs, everything's streaming, But now we're at this point where there's so many streaming services, and the rights to the shows and movies just shuffle all the time. I mean, the Harry Potter movies are moving multiple times a year between multiple different streaming services. We're seeing things, even the X-Men movies. I started watching some of the X-Men movies with my kids, and I was like, okay, so they're all on Disney Plus. And then by the time we got to like X-Men First Class wasn't on Disney Plus anymore, and now it's on something else. And I'm like, I I don't want to chase down these movies, and I was showing my kids. I got all excited because I wanted to show them Edge of Tomorrow, and then Edge of Tomorrow just wasn't streaming anywhere. And so I went and I bought it digitally on Amazon. And so long, I guess, as Amazon is in business, then that's fine. But, then like 2 weeks later, Edge of Tomorrow was on HBO. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I like own it now digitally where I can pull it wherever. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough right now. Tudong, where are you at with all this?
I'll be honest, I was a purist when it comes to DVD and Blu-ray for a very long time. Didn't have a lot of use for the streaming services, and for the longest time, I didn't have them. And I had no problem, DVDs and Blu-rays and all that stuff. And when I got one streaming, I got thinking, I don't feel like putting in a DVD right now. I'll just put on a TV show. I don't have to get it. This is fine. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like watching this movie. And I own the movie. So, hey, no problem. And I thought, all right. And I have a vast collection of DVDs and some Blu-rays. Not as big as like it used to be, but it's still fairly okay. And the idea, and this is so sad, the idea of going to get that DVD or Blu-ray, turn on the DVD or Blu-ray player, put the disc in, and then like hit play, and like and not only that, I can't like take it with me. Hey, if I got to go get a drink of water, I have to hit pause. I can't take it with me over to get the drink of water. I can't take it with me, if I'm driving and I want to listen to it or something like that. And it really, I mean, like I always thought that if they were going to, if you have a streaming service, the movie's on there, the TV show's on there, and there it is. Every time, like they are losing a thing, a show or a movie, it sucks. Like I mean, and then you start to worry about the other ones that you have, and you're like, what if they leave? And some of them, like Frasier, I'm like, hey, I own it on DVD. But do I really want to just walk all the way and put that on when I could just watch it on streaming?
Sure.
It's tough. It used to be a status thing where you could sit there and be like, "Oh, you haven't seen this movie? I got this movie. I'll lend it to you," or like, "Come on over and we'll watch it," or something like that. Cool. Nowadays, it's
Sure.
like you could watch it on this and done. No more, no more real bonding. No any of that kind of stuff. I'm like, it's on this service, and that's it.
Yeah, I was an avid DVD collector for a long time.
The
It's
three
kind of
of
like
us
easy
all
to
were
point to,
Yeah.
like a lot of DVDs.
and I still have a ton, but I just haven't bought a DVD. I was trying to think of the last DVD I bought. It might have been like a Thomas the Train video when my now teenage son was like 5 or 6. It's been a minute, and I it's part of that. A lot of that's the stream. For sure. But also some of that is just like, I got 4 kids, man. I don't have space. Like where am I putting like, 600 DVDs or something? I just
Mm.
500. I got like in my garage in boxes like hundreds of these. I just can't keep adding to that. It's already almost unjustifiable to my wife that we even have as much as we do. Uh, but Dylan, I love the way that you're phrasing that because like, there was a whole period of my life where it would be late at night and I'm watching TV and the remote has fallen out of reach, and so something would come on, and it's like that calculus of like, am I getting up to get the remote, or is this okay, and that I'm just gonna ride this out, and and so now it's a different kind of calculus. It's like, all right, I got my
Yeah.
DVDs in the garage. Do I do I want to walk, or I'm paying for all these streaming services. There's something on one of them that's watchable.
Sure.
And I think this is an important. I want to talk with you guys about the money part because I think this is a really big part of this. Because it's fine to say like, well, hey, you can think about like backing up your computer hard drive, right? If there's a show you love, that there's a movie you love, just buy it and then you have it, and then no matter what happens to it, you got a copy of it. But I mean, for the price of like purchasing one movie, you could
Yeah.
it's like 2 months of streaming on a service.
Yeah.
It's so, and we're talking about Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, Peacock, we're Apple TV Plus, Showtime, Stars, whatever else is out, AMC Plus, and
Mm.
just the list goes on and on. BritBox and
Shutter.
Acorn and Shutter. Yeah, I mean, you can find a streaming service with like whatever niche you might be into, that's a lot to juggle. And then that, not to mention if you want to have like access to something like YouTube TV or Hulu Live TV, or maybe you're a cable person still, and you're like, look at all these dumb people paying for all these different a la carte options when they could just have everything all in one place. You fools. Uh, so, do you? So I want to ask two questions, and you guys can kind of answer them whatever order you want, or dance around them however you want. Number one is, how do you guys personally juggle that? Like, just like are you guys streaming on and off? You writing deals? Are you just kind of, picking and choosing your services based on what's out? So how are you picking which ones you're paying for? And number two, do you think DVDs are even going to be around in 10 years? Are we looking at a situation where the technology itself is going to be obsolete, in which case all that's going to be left is more like cloud-based, like digital copies of things and streaming? So those are my questions.
Tudong, you want to start?
Brody, I'm kicking it. Oh, Brody, no, I'm kicking it to you because Dylan got to talk last. So,
well, I will
give more
say
time to think.
my DVD collection is right there. It's a 500 disc book, and you can see it's about as tall as my head, and it's kind of a pain to go through, but it doesn't take up too much space other than like a big spot on the shelf.
Now, is it alphabetical, or did you link through actor?
It's alphabetical. Oh, if I linked through actor, I would never find anything. But I will say there have been plenty of times where I know that there's DVDs, there's movies in there that I have, and I'm like, I don't want to get up and go through the book.
Yeah.
And then I spend more time like searching where it's streaming between the 6 or so streaming services that I have than had I just gotten up and put it into the PlayStation downstairs. Okay, so your 2 points. So how do we navigate? We I try to find deals. For streaming services, I try to find deals. A lot of times, if I can pay for like a bulk chunk, if I can pay for 6 months, if I can pay for a year, then I'll do that. And then I think I remember when Disney Plus first started and they said, hey, you can get 3 years for like $120. I was full in on that. And then that came up and they were like, hey, you can subscribe for another year for $80. And I was like, sure, fine. So that's normally a lot of the other ones. I just try to find like free trials, and I kind of go between some of them. I haven't had Netflix in a while, but I'm going to need Netflix here coming up for like the new Witcher season, for some other stuff I know my kids want to watch. And so I'll get it for, a month or two, but I just don't want to have like all of these streaming services all at the same time, because it's just too much. There's too much content. Even like going through and trying to build a list, I'm like, okay, so I've got this list, and I go through HBO or Max, and then I go through Paramount, and then Disney. Like it almost gets overwhelming, and then by the time, I'll go through like 5, and then I'm like, I don't really see anything, and I've just spent a half hour looking for something, and now I give up, and I'm tired, and I'm going to bed. So I try not to have too many streaming services, but when I do have them, I try not to pay for them.
How many did you have? Like at one point?
Well, at one point, I don't know. Right now, I've got
right now
HBO, or I've got Max. I keep wanting to call it HBO. I've got Max, Disney Plus, Peacock for the WWE. I've got Universal that I got a free month, and then when I tried to cancel, they said, "Hey, do you want 2 months for free?" And I said, "Sure."
It's that Talk Punch discount when you type in the code at checkout.
Yeah, I wish. Hulu. I have Hulu because I pay $2.99 a month for that. What else is it? What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. Disney, Max, Universal, or not Universal, Paramount.
You have Paramount?
I have Paramount.
Peacock.
Hulu. That might be it.
Amazon Prime.
And Prime. Oh man. So Prime is one of those ones that I just forget. I don't know. What is that? 6?
Jeez, bro.
Too much.
Charlie, how many do you have? How many did you have, Charlie?
Can I say real quick, and then I will answer that question, that there is not a worse interface that exists than the interface. It is absolutely maddening
Then
trying
the
to
what?
find movies that the Amazon Prime. If you're just trying to
Oh,
browse movies, and maybe the laptop experience is different, but the PlayStation app is horrendous. It is so hard to just like find movies that you can just like. I watched Matador recently. I had no idea that was
Oh yeah.
on Amazon. The only reason I knew
Hmm.
I ended up finding it on Amazon is because it was leaving at the end of the month. I'm like, oh hey, that's a movie that I didn't know existed on this platform for like however long it's been on this platform. I have Amazon, I have Hulu, I have Disney, and that might be it.
oh, I also have
Well,
Apple.
I
I also have Apple.
oh I know I have Apple too, and I'm loving Apple. Apple, if you guys are watching this and you want to take away a streaming service, Apple Plus has got some great shows right now. That's a good one.
It's got a
What
couple.
about you, D? What are you rocking?
I just have Hulu, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime. That's like it. I
What do
got
you?
Hulu longest, and I have I have been watching
Love
Frasier
Hulu.
on that for years. I'm so glad they haven't cut the like Cheers. They cut it down up until season 4, and Frasier they've left alone.
Yeah, so
And
irritating.
hopefully they continue to leave it alone. Just leave it alone. It's there. You don't need to do anything with
Leave
it.
it alone.
Don't send it to
What
Paramount Plus.
what would you guys say is like your top three? Just kind of off the top of your head. What would be three that you're like, these are the ones I just want to keep?
Oh, I only have 3, so mine are
All right,
self-explanatory.
that's true. Charlie?
Hulu's a must. I love Hulu, and probably I mean like I can't get rid of Amazon Prime because we just use the shipping part of it. So does that count as me
Right.
loving the Amazon content, or does that just like so I guess I get to put in the top three by default. Um, I and okay, depends what I'm doing. Depends what I'm doing. So if I'm just in the mood to watch some critically acclaimed television that's high quality, well acted, and exceptionally well written and produced, give me some Apple. Give me some Apple Plus. But if I'm just keeping something that I want to watch Marvel movies and Disney stuff, then obviously it's got to be the Disney Plus. If Apple's cheap too, it's like $5. But I guess if you're putting me in a vice lock to pick, I'll put Disney in my top three.
I really like Max, and even after the it went from HBO Max to just Max, I think I like it even more now because it's got a lot of stuff. I
Can we
really
can we
like
can we have a
Max.
quick talk about how ridiculous it was that they dropped the HBO out of
Yeah,
the name of their
so
service?
ridiculous.
Max,
That's
the
ugh.
one you go to when you want to watch HBO. Do you know how long I've had to live in Southern California with people making fun of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim? Do you know how many times I've had to listen to people making fun of that name? And finally, I should feel good. Someone out there made a dumber name switch, but I can't even enjoy it because it just brings back bad memories. It's ridiculous,
But
unbelievable.
it's gone beyond just HBO though.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Next,
jeez.
we're gonna start calling Peacock the P. Catch the stream.
I do really like Peacock because they have the WWE stuff. HBO, or not HBO, Amazon. I actually like Amazon. Maybe it's a different interface for the Roku stuff, but I really enjoy
Could be.
I've
Amazon.
got an Apple TV, and the interface is fine, and so is it on the phone, which are the only 2 places I stream from.
Yeah, on the
Okay,
tablet,
Charlie.
the experience is much better because it gets you a grid that you can like swipe through. And on the PlayStation, it's like one line of movies that you can
Uh,
slowly, and it doesn't give you every option. It's just kind of like whatever they've chosen. The algorithm has chosen to show you as
mhm.
you kind of scroll through like action movies we think you'll like. It's like okay, well,
Okay, Charlie.
let me
And
everything.
what was your second point? Because I know I wanted to talk on
My
your
second
second
point
point.
is are we just I mean like look, writing's on the wall for all technology, right? All technology will be obsolete at some point, replaced by better technology. Are we hitting a point where
Oh,
we're looking at the
yes.
end? Like how far down the road do you think DVDs will still be part of our culture? Or 10 years? What are we before they're just obsolete and gone?
I think it's. I think that it's tough because we're already sort of seeing that. With the new PlayStation 5, you can buy the version with the disc drive where you can play the 4K discs. The brand new highest quality disc, the 4K Blu-ray, or you can buy one that doesn't even have a disc drive that is purely streaming. And so then you don't even have a disc player, you don't have a DVD or Blu-ray or 4K or whatever. You're just streaming everything. um I still like the disc. I I just bought a disc last year. I bought Interstellar, and that was because Charlie had never seen it and it wasn't streaming anywhere. And I went down to visit him and I said, you know what? I really want to watch this with him. So I'm going to buy the disc. And it came with a 4K, it came with a Blu ray, it came with a DVD, and it came with a digital copy or some sort of combination like that. And I was like, that sounds good. I want to own that. Um, and so I don't know, but is it gonna completely? I don't know if I want to say I don't think physical media is gonna go away completely. But then as I say that, I think about CDs. And I think about if I wanted to buy a CD, where do I even go to buy a CD? I
And
don't
then
even
where would you
like
play it?
I yeah, I mean my car has a CD player, but
Oh, yeah.
that's it. I don't have a C
Yeah.
aside from a like a Blu-ray player. I don't have anything that would play a CD, and so I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know. That's a tough question. It's a tough question. Tudong, you
Prognosticate.
yeah, Tudong, you go as my mind tries to wrap my head around this.
What was the first question?
Just
What do
kind of
you
like how
do?
you juggle. We kind of talked about the juggling the streaming services
Oh,
and the
right, yeah,
cost
yeah.
versus like the cost of buying stuff.
Yeah. I don't have as many streaming services as you guys do, but I mean, like, it really makes you buy a lot less. I used to get several, it went from like several DVDs a month to just several a year. And then it was like, is this really worth buying? Maybe I can see it on streaming or I can see it in the movies. And then it became like the movies are, I mean, it's cheaper even to stream that, even if I'm like, if I'm um, like one ticket price, seeing it in your house versus all the ticket prices for all the people going with you, you know? So you're like, well, I'll just stream it and then people can watch it with me, I guess, or not, or whoever. But yeah, the last Blu-ray that I got was oddly for my daughter as well, and it was the Adams Family. And because it's not streaming anywhere, it was streaming on Netflix, and we would, we had Netflix for a bit, and then it left Netflix, and it didn't matter. We didn't even have Netflix, but so I'm like, I'll just buy it. But I will admit, there are some things that I'm glad that I have that would be lost, just to the ages. There's older movies that I really enjoy, and there's TV shows that if they decide to cut them, like like Max is cutting things, and all these, if other streaming services do the same thing, or if they juggle them or they switch them, it's good to have it there now. The question is, do I really feel like going and putting it on? And for my daughter, yeah, all right, I am going to put it on. I'll put it on if she really, if she doesn't want to watch some of her other favorite shows, then I'll throw that on. But I mean, like, even if they weren't streaming, is it really worth it buying like some um new movie that just came out on Blu-ray or DVD, and it's like 25 bucks at 35 bucks, and then of course it's going to come out on the same format when it probably would have hit streaming earlier, and next thing you know, it's a $5 like DVD or Blu-ray, and you're just like, well, that was $20 that I just about wasted. I could have bought it for five, I could have bought it for two. So it's tricky, and I don't really like the juggling thing. I don't really like looking for the deals. I don't want to be bothered with it. Just like it's getting to a point where I don't want to be bothered with the physical things. But it's so good to have, and it's just a peace of mind and be like, yeah, I still have Frasier. If they take it off, at least I still have it. I don't have Cheers, and Cheers is just about left. But
Yeah.
I do think that sooner or later it's going to be obsolete because it's really not controlled by us at all. They say, oh, it's whatever is popular or whatever is like this, but everything was popular, and then they'll switch it. So whether it's like a cloud or something, even if it's a different format, I'll say this: I don't think they're going to exist the way they are now. If there is a physical format, I think there's going to be some kind of maybe a smaller disc, or a disc that holds several movies, or something that we just haven't thought of yet. Um, so I mean, if there is, I do think that it's going to be obsolete inside of our lifetimes. The DVD and Blu-ray or 4K or whatever
Yeah, agreed. It's interesting, and like the idea of like the music rights and like now there's the
Mm.
strike that's going on, people fighting for because the world has really changed the way that we consume media, and people deserve to be
Mhm.
paid for that,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see that going on. There's shows like there's a show. Brody, can I interest you in a Ryan Reynolds, Nathan Fillion television show that exists in
Oh,
the
Yeah.
Two
world?
Guys, a
Can
Girl,
I
and a
interest
Pizza
you?
Place. Yeah, good luck finding
I have
that
never seen.
anywhere.
I've never
It's
seen
not
an
available
episode
on
of that.
DVD. Me neither.
I don't.
Can't believe
And
it.
even if it were, I don't want to buy it. I want to watch it on a streaming service. I don't know if it's good. I don't want to. I don't want to
I would
shell out a
buy
bunch of
that.
money.
I would
There's a
buy it.
show that I watched when I was a kid called They Came from Outer Space. It's a weird brother duo show where they felt each other's pain with Dean Cameron and Stuart Fratkin. That doesn't exist anywhere. It's I'm sure it's horrible, but I would love to watch it for nostalgia. You could find
Yeah.
it on DVD for $200 on Amazon. I'm not
Oh,
paying
Oh.
$200, but I'd love to watch it sometime. Shows like a show like Dream On that was on HBO when I was a kid growing up, a sitcom that kind of a precursor to Friends, and they put out like 3 seasons of it and then stopped. I don't know how it ends. There's 7 seasons, and they just stopped,
Oh.
and they never had it on HBO. They never even put it on HBO. Not even back when it was like the streaming service first debuted. It's never been there. It's gone forever. It's such an odd feeling to feel like we live in the future, and yet like I can't just watch like something that exists. Like put it on Freevee for crying out loud. Like
Yeah.
I'll watch a few ads, man. Like give me some. I'm not asking for much. I'm asking for a Dean Cameron TV show that I'll be one of 3 people that streams it when it pops up there. Give me some Parker Lewis Can't Lose stuff from
Yeah.
my childhood that's probably horrible, but that I'd like to like Herman's Head. I'd like to watch it again. I want to
Yeah.
remember it before all the memories have completely faded. I'm sure it's terrible, but I want to see it just one more time.
yeah.
But alas, not
Well, and
meant to be.
it's crazy because I remember when Disney Plus, when they were first coming out with Disney Plus, and there was this big deal about they're opening the vault, and they were
Yeah.
like before things would go into the vault, they would release it on disc. It would be there for 3, 4, 5, 10 years, and then it would be this big show. We're opening the vault. It's coming out of moratorium, and so when Disney Plus came out, they were like, we're opening the vault. Everything is available. But now we're kind of in this, Charlie mentioned Willow. Like Willow came out
Mhm.
less than a
Mhm.
year ago, and now
And it's
it's
gone.
gone for who knows how long. I mean, is this going to be a recycled thing? Is this going to come out every couple of years? Is this just a dead show that people will kind of have this fever dream remembering of like didn't they make a Willow show that was there for like 6 months or less? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, someday in like 20 years when our kids are doing a podcast together, they're like, instead of They Came from Outer Space and Herman's Head, they'll be like, "We're Willow. It was like one season. I swear it existed when I was a kid. It was a real show."
Did you guys see it?
Look, I have a firm philosophy. So look, okay, this is part of a bigger conversation than I think we have time to have tonight. But I got to a place where I was really irritated with streaming services. They would just cancel shows after like a season.
Yeah.
And so I have like a policy that unless it's like a show that I'm really, really attracted to, I I want them to commit to me as a viewer before I commit to them as a viewer. And I know that's like counterproductive because shows don't get enough viewers and then they get canceled. So it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But there's too much content to watch for me just to kind of like invest, fall in love with the show, and then poof, it's gone. And then so if I had watched Willow and I did love it, I'd be extra pissed right now. At least now I'm just kind of like, well, that's unfortunate. Like, hopefully it wasn't good. I don't know. I'll never know. And so it's kind of at least a little bit. I'm you're insulating yourself a little bit from the disappointment because man, there were some shows I just loved that got like the carpet pulled out from under them just when they were kind of getting good. So.
Yeah, I
That's kinda
started
my
watching Willow. I watched about 10 minutes and then I was
That's
like,
Rory's fault.
no, I think I'd rather watch Reacher because Charlie kept talking about Reacher. And so I was like, I stopped after 10 minutes of the
Reacher's
first
good.
episode and I was like, maybe I'll come back to it later after I finish Reacher. And now it's just gone. So at least I didn't get too invested. I got about 10 minutes and was like, I don't feel like watching this right now.
That's that's another part of streaming, like the new Lord of the Rings show on Amazon. I I don't know that I've never been in the mood to watch it, but I'm glad that it exists and that I could watch it. I don't know that I ever will because I don't know that I'll ever be in the mood to watch it, but I want it to keep existing just in case I'm ever like, you know what I want? I want a drawn out exposition of a television show based on a Tolkien. Give it to me now, and maybe and then I want it to exist still, but just in like in a stasis.
I want to watch it, but I kept falling asleep, and so it's just I haven't watched it yet, but I want to.
Yeah.
So
But
you're
it's the same
talking
type of
about
thing
you
of
want
like,
the options.
yeah,
The
I
options.
want it to be there in case I get that urge in that moment. I can then go and watch it. But
Yeah,
if it just
nice to have the option.
disappears, if Amazon is like, we dumped $500 million into this thing, and we don't want to continue paying people for it, then they pull it
But see,
off and it disappears.
there's a difference though, bro. There's a difference between no longer like saying, "Hey, all right, well, this didn't work out, and we're not going to continue with it." But they didn't have to take it off the channel. There, I mean, I don't know why they're dumping them in the first place. If I'm being honest, like I know that it has to do with the rights. Like they don't want to pay for the rights, so they just let it go. You'd
Charlie,
think
you
another
you
like
you
so.
know about this, right? Can you give us some background on that?
Yeah, so all right, so essentially, like, there's a big story, like, maybe a year or two ago, where Netflix kind of said they were kind of reaching their subscriber peak, and there was this big, so it's like kind of think of the streaming wars, and they were shotgunning these like pilots and shows out there. Everybody wanted subscriptions, but there is a finite amount of subscriptions that you can get, and so the idea was to flood the marketplace, get subscriptions, and Wall Street and investors were comfortable with Netflix or whoever declaring losses and losing money as long as subscribership kept growing. And then there was this big backlash from investors, and they wanted to see profits. Show us profits. So
Mhm.
Netflix comes out with the okay, we're not going to share passwords anymore. So they kind of
Yeah.
revamped their whole business policy. It went from love is sharing a password with someone to like f you, don't ever share your password, and cracking down. And other streaming services respond by saying, well, hey, we have to pay people on some residuals if people keep watching these on streaming. So what if we just took them out?
Uh,
So they don't get to watch them anymore. We don't got to pay them money, and so they just were. I don't know why Robert De Niro was making that choice, but he was. It just yanking them out, and so it's just money. It's just money. So it's ways that they can make more money for their investors, and people will still subscribe. And so HBO cuts the HBO. They become Max. They're flooding their channel with like Discovery property, like low overhead reality television stuff that's easy to produce. So they can keep their subscriber count up, their view, but they're removing things that cost them residuals and money, and it's all a shell game to make people richer.
Well,
But
and
yeah,
some
so
stuff with the Mac stuff is, like you mentioned Westworld, they're kind of like leasing that out now. So they're saying, okay, so you can't get
sure,
Westworld
it's
on
it's
Macs,
another way to make money.
but
Yeah,
you can go and watch it on the Roku channel. I think it's going to the Roku channel, and you'll probably have to watch some ads for it, and Roku will pay
yeah.
them to then stream Westworld after they
Yeah,
canceled
you're
it.
absolutely right. So yeah, so the shows that they take off their streaming, they then become sellable properties to other streaming services. And I think you will see a lot more of them land on ad supported because there's a lot of those now with Cracked and Tubi and Plex and
Yeah.
Freevee. There's a lot of these popping up. But it's just kind of like ridiculous that you have to pay like what $20 a month to have an HBO subscription, and then one of their flagship shows, Westworld, you can then also watch on a different streaming services with ads in addition to your monthly fee of streaming. And
It's
it's
tough and
it's
it's confusing. It's confusing trying to track this stuff and trying to follow this stuff. I loved Westworld.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask. So one last big topic, and then we can wrap it. Do we have time, bro?
Yeah. We got time.
Okay. So I guess I want to kind of boil this down into like a more theoretical, artistic discussion to end. We're gonna highbrow it here.
Okay.
I was thinking about this a lot because I'm a music guy. I love music, and I was thinking about how you can put on a track from like fantastic. Like you don't the recordings of yesteryear, the recordings of the '80s, the '90s, the 2000s. It all sounds great. Music, there's a lot of different accessibility issues now that are fantastic for modern music making. But essentially, it's not like watching a movie from like 1960 where you're like, oh, wow, it's really dated, or you go back and watch the CGI of the 2000s in the movie. Music is a medium that, like in its construction, is designed to last essentially forever. And unless we invent like new ways for to create music that's like so above and beyond, the recordings that we have will always exist and they'll always be interchangeable from decade to decade and generation to generation. Movies is not that way, right? You watch old action movies, whatever it may be. You show your kids the even like, oh, I'm gonna show them Die Hard someday, and it's and then you show them John Wick 4 or something. It's like it's not these are not the same,
Sure,
and like the way
sure.
that they're shot. And so I guess my question and the conversation I'd love to end this with is, do you have a romanticized idea of cinema and that it should be preserved and continued to be like accessible to future generations, or do you have kind of a more pragmatic approach where you're thinking like like movies are really more of like a recyclable media or art form? It's not like a Mona Lisa hanging in a museum where people come and like, oh, that forever we'll just go look at this painting, this old painting, or the music of Beethoven from the 1700s or whatever. It's like, okay, this is meant to be enjoyed in a window of time, and then when that window closes, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a film buff, maybe you're really upset that 7,000 silent films are gone. But realistically, if you're just an average person, how many of us are going to go back and scour archives and watch 10,000 silent films, right? It's like, oh, it's just a bummer that they're gone, but like, it doesn't really affect my life at all. And if we're being honest, I know a lot of us have not even seen a lot of those 1940s classics, even Brody. Wonderful Lives. I know Brody and I haven't seen any of the old Christmas. Dylan, I know you like them all, but Brody
Still
and I
haven't seen them
are
all.
we're slackers. We're slackers. Long story short, my question to you is: do you have a romantic idea that you want to preserve this, keep it, or are you just kind of like, hey, let it roll, and let's just wipe out every couple of years, we just that decade's gone and we just go, metaphorically speaking.
Dylan, you want to take that? Or you want me to jump?
All right. Yeah. I am a firm believer that, I mean, music is timeless, but I mean, it also does represent its era and when it was made. Even though like it still can be considered timeless. I look at movies a lot the same way because I mean, there's movies that we still do remember. Maybe not like ever. Okay, do I think they should all be available? Yes. Is there space and there's room in the cloud or what have you in the streaming and all that kind of thing? Yes, there is. It could be preserved very, very easily. We remember movies to this day that came out way before we were born. People are still talking about The Wizard of Oz. People are still talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, previews are coming out, or let's say, I mean, even the newer Indiana Jones, not the Dial of Destiny, which hasn't come out yet, but it's already getting reviews, and they're saying it's kind of meh. But I mean, like people said the same thing about the Crystal Skull. They didn't say that about the Last Crusade. They didn't say that about Raiders of the Lost Ark. They didn't exactly say that about the Temple of Doom. I mean, people are still saying, "Hey, the original trilogy of Star Wars is still the pinnacle of Star Wars," and it's difficult to argue that. So I mean, is there kind of a picking and choosing factor? I mean, probably. Should they still be preserved? I do think that, because I do think that there is you can learn from what you've already seen. Do we have to watch Citizen Kane? Does every single person have to watch it? No. Should it be available? Absolutely.
Sorry, folks. We had a a minor little recording issue there, but we should be good now. So Dylan, back to Citizen Kane. You were making a point about we don't all have to watch Citizen Kane.
We don't all have to watch Citizen Kane, but should it be available for people to see? Absolutely. Have people learned from it? Have people done every single thing from it and it's no longer novel to us? Yes, it is. Does it help us to watch it? Some people want to. A lot of people, they shouldn't have to, obviously. But I mean, like, again, like you're going back to things like right now, and there's not a lot of memorable things. I mean, like there's John Wick, yes, but then comparing it to Die Hard, if you really sit down and watch Die Hard, I mean, it's still a really good movie. And I mean, John Wick is a good movie too. But I mean, like these days, people will talk about Star Wars and they'll talk about the original trilogy as the pinnacle of it, and they're the first ones that were made. They didn't improve on them yet, which is surprising. And until they're able to do that consistently, like they have been before, people these days are starting movies without even a script. And that's why that's one of the things with the strike, like things aren't getting done because writers have to be on set instead of back in the day. Everything was done, everything was set. Maybe they tweak it a bit, that's fine. And if the writers are there, that's great. But I mean, like we had epic movies come out. People remember Predator. They started finally putting some thought into it with Prey. That's the last good Predator that we got. And before that, there was really not any. Even part two, and a Predator and Predators, and then some other Aliens versus Predators, and then Alien versus Predator. Nobody remembers those things. People remember Predator. People remember Prey because they finally got serious. Somebody wanted to say something. But with the Star Wars, they had no clue what they were doing. And so what we're supposed to now, like, no longer watch the original trilogy? And guess what? We can't watch the original trilogy because it's already been screwed with by George Lucas. We can't even see the original trilogy. So they're already kind of doing this. And it sucks. Like, we can't go back and watch the actual original Star Wars where Han fires first. Nowadays it's all like changed, and I mean, I do think that we should be able to see these things. I do think there's like space, and there's I mean, like, I get that they're trying to save money, but it's getting ridiculous. It's just like, I understand that it's a business, but I mean, you've got to have a little bit of not nostalgia, but respect for their own art. That's how
I
I feel
think
about it. I
I
hope
think
it
I'm I think I have a slight counter argument to that. I agree that I think this stuff should stick around. I sort of like music, it should always be there. You know, you can go and listen to the music from the 20s if you want to. And there's probably a small amount of people who really enjoy music from the 20s. I have no interest in going and listening to music from the 20s. And I've seen that with my kids. Now that my kids are getting older, I've got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And so I am showing them movies from that I loved growing up from the 80s and 90s. And
not
it
RoboCop
just
yet, though.
not RoboCop yet, no, not yet. But like they're just not as interested, and they get kind of bored with them. And even to the Star Wars, like there's a whole kind of generation of people who look at the prequels as their Star Wars. And you know, the people that were watching Star Wars when they were young are now in their 20s, you know. And so and like I've heard, I haven't met any of these people yet, but I've heard, you know, that there are these people who do love the prequels who actually don't really enjoy the original movies. And so I think that movies sort of have this generational lifespan. Not I hate to say lifespan because I don't think that they die off. But I think that in terms of uh, just like interest, I think that the movies that I love from the 80s and 90s are going to kind of stick with me. And my kids are going to grow up watching fondly the movies from the 20 teens, you know, because that's what they grew up with. And so I don't know, but I don't want the movies to like go away, right? I don't
So
want
then what are you saying? Because you're not
I
really saying
don't
anything about
know.
that.
I don't know. I'm just trying to make some points here.
Your points are valid, bro. I mean, I think that as time passes, interest in older whatever, insert the blank, it wanes, and naturally so. Just like there's, you can talk about the content, you can talk about the just like the language that's used. Sometimes we evolve as a society, and we don't use words or language anymore. Sometimes, like you watch Valley Girl, and it's all like as and for shores, and tubulars and things that are weird words, that slang that's outdated and doesn't make sense anymore. You have like the different visuals and stuff where just the quality isn't as good. I dream of a utopia, though. Like I like, this the street, like, music has its own problems with like paying artists and licensing fees and all that stuff. So I don't want to get into that part of it. But I do like the convenience of like, I get Apple Music free through Verizon, and it's fantastic. I can just type in any artist, I can go to their catalog, and I can just listen to anything anytime. So I love that. Like, picture a world where you just like, you know what, I'm in the mood for a Sam Jackson vehicle, and you just type his name into a streaming service, and then just every single movie he's ever made is there, and you can just scroll through and be like, I've never even heard of this one. What is this? From the 1980s. Oh, this is Coming to America. What does he do in this one? And you can kind of scrub through that and find, that would be
Snakes on a
amazing.
plane.
And it's like a full to everyone that that we're preserving kind of like what has come before, Especially, as we continue to age and next generations come in, we become, we lean even heavier into our boomerness. Our yelling at clouds, our Abe Simpson, where he's yelling at Homer and he says, "I used to know what it was, and then they changed what it is, and it scares me, and it'll happen to
We're Gen
you."
Xers. We're not boomers. We're not old enough to be boomers. We're
Not
Gen
yet, but we're
Xers.
gonna we're leaning into that, like that next phase. Anyway,
Oh, that's
but
true.
like, but we want to watch stuff too. Like just because I'm phasing, just because I'm even when I'm 80, I'm gonna want to watch stuff. I'm gonna want to pop on Die Hard and crawl through my home vents one last
Mm.
time. Uh, so I know that it's way more complicated of an issue, but I do hope that there is a way that they can figure this out so that the stuff
Yeah,
doesn't just disappear forever.
sure.
And there are even artists tweeting, they were in shows. Some of these shows, they're like, I can't even watch this. I don't even own this. There's a show I was in, and it's gone. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like they can't even get a copy. Like, like, can we get them a DVD or something? I just hope they figure out a way to like manage to have availability of a lot of this stuff, so that we can watch it, we can preserve it, we can enjoy it, and that future generations can kind of even if it's just out of curiosity, go back and see what was the fuss, what was all that fuss about, and check out some of these older flicks, because I do think that there's I do have a little bit of a romantic side when it comes to movie making, and I do think that you can learn a lot by seeing how things were made in the era that they were made in, and it's a fun way, almost like a time capsule, to kind of go back and see a little bit of a glimpse of what was culture like in a certain era, more so than like a movie that's just kind of doing a flashback in its time. So, anyways, I think it's an interesting discussion, and I think it would be fun to kind of keep this going. But I know we're probably running long. Uh, so,
Yeah.
anybody have any last thoughts on any of this wildness?
Oh,
If they
yeah.
had things
No, all
that
right.
were more preserved, then it would be a lot better. Like there should be some streaming channels that are specifically just for that, and so like nothing is
Yeah,
out of like that. That would be a lot better. I would even go for that.
an archive. Like, studios could just have a bidding war of the stuff that they don't care about, and then they could just go to
Hmm.
go to like a free thing, and then we can all watch it for free. But people should get, writers, actors, people should get paid, but also we should be able to watch stuff. So
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
happen. All right, make it happen, you billionaires. All right, so Brody, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I hope this stuff sticks around. I know I didn't really answer that question, but I do want stuff to stick around. Even though I've
You want a
never seen
world
stuff.
without RoboCop, the original RoboCop, a world
No,
without
it
RoboCop.
needs to be there. The world needs it. Um, and
The world
even
needs it now more than ever.
even the Citizen Kanes. I've never seen Citizen Kane, but like
You
that's
don't
something
have to.
that
You really
Good.
don't. You don't
that
have
I
to.
want to. I want to. I want to see A Wonderful Life. Like have I gotten around to seeing it? No, I haven't. Do I want to? Do I want the option to watch it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do wonder as these copyrights and stuff come up, it's not something that we've really had to deal with movies too much.
Hmm.
This I want to call it open source. I know that's not what's the right term. Copyright when it drops out of copyright. It's been the 72 years or whatever.
Oh,
I can't
public domain.
public domain. As we start seeing stuff go into public domain, I wonder what happens then. Because
Yeah, that's
that's
true.
going to happen to movies. And so it's going to be interesting. I think.
I agree.
First, whatever movie, whichever high profile movie gets put into that public domain sphere first, we will stream it live for you on Talk Punch with
Nice.
reactions.
Heck yeah!
We'll be here for you. Well, we'd love to know your thoughts, right? So you've heard us talking about this. I think it's an interesting subject. Let us know what streaming services do you subscribe to? How are you juggling this? What was the last DVD you purchased? Are you buying things digitally? For me, like going to the theater has largely been replaced by the occasional, buying things digitally and streaming. What about you? Are you going to the theater still? Let us know in the comments, and make sure you click like and subscribe. It really does help us, and it means a lot. And if you like this, watch some other videos. That also helps us, and it means a lot. It'll make Dylan's heart smile. So we'll see you next time. Tickle the heart.
Bye.